Welcome to my channel and let's talk about my coloring January. For me, January was good. I did some very relaxing, even silly works. I did some complicated works of which I am really proud of. I played with various materials. I used pencils, I used watercolors, I used gouache, I used acrylic paints, watercolors. So coloring was interesting, challenging and relaxing. In the beginning of the month, I allowed myself to work more on the winter pictures which I wanted to color in December, but unfortunately didn't have enough time. In December, I printed several pictures from Christmas by Tatiana Bogema, but managed to do only one of them. And I decided that as in January we have our Christmas, we still have Christmas trees standing near skate rinks, then this picture can be a perfect choice for the first days of January. And I colored it. Here I mostly used artisan pencils. Well, I had some problems with dark colors on the sky. They were a little bit too waxy on this paper which I selected for printing, but the rest of the page I do love. I also used here a couple of very light blue-green colors from Castle Art pastel tint pencils, and they helped me to create this effect on the ice and on the snow. The fun part was to color all those fair stalls with various types of the food and to color this cute mice pair. I imagine that they have a date on the ice rink, so I tried to make them quite fashionably clothed. I added a little bit of embroidery here on the sweater. The challenging part was to add all those highlights and reflections on the surface of the eye, here from the Christmas tree, here reflections of the light on the ice and on the snow, and all those reflections of the light from inside all those tiny buildings. Well, now I am at least satisfied that I did couple of pictures from Tatiana Bogema book, and the rest of the pages which I printed, well, probably they will have to wait until the next December. Another winter page which I did was in Christmas Surprise by Alena Lazareva. Again, unfortunately, I got this book quite late in December, so before Christmas I managed to do just one page, and after Christmas I didn't want to do pictures with Christmas tree, with Santa, with presents. But in this book we also have several beautiful pictures which were created when Alena got inspiration from traditional Russian craft. It's Russian miniatures from Fedoskino, from Palech, and I decided that I definitely want to color one of such pictures. So let me show you this result which I got. I tried to maintain this style of these miniatures, so I needed dark background. First I was thinking about very traditional black, as we can see on the miniatures, but then I realized that if I want to do permanent background, so I need to use acrylic. I decided that background have to be permanent because on top of it I planned to add other paints, so I didn't want the background to be reactivated with water. I wanted it to be permanent. But my black acrylic, it's a little bit too thick, maybe already too dry, so instead I used acrylic ink by Dollar-Roney. It's a relatively new medium for me. I don't think that I used it before. I purchased it on Jackson's Art and I wanted to experiment with it, and finally it was time to use it. Well, in some of the areas I got more intense color, in some of the areas where I added a little bit more water it looks more like watercolors, but it works exactly how I wanted it to create first layer of dark backgrounds. Then I searched through my acrylic gouache, which is permanent after drying but has a very nice matte finish after drying, so it's between acrylic and gouache. It's by Turner. And I selected colors for the snow together with white paint and for all those decorative trees. I spent considerable amount of time on this page because I outlined all these elements with white with tiny brush, then I added those small elements. In the beginning it was a little bit weird to color in such style, but then I tried to imagine that here we have trees covered by snow, so that's why I outlined everything with white to show that this layer of snow but in decorative way. When I started to add bright color accents, those tiny flowers and berries, everything started to look more cheerful, more interesting. And of course I enjoyed doing this pair. I mostly used Sucolor pencils. Here I have artist edition printed on very good paper, so all pencils, both budget and more professional, work very well, and paints also work well. Well, probably now this book will have to wait until the next winter season, but I am sure that when I will return to this book, I will continue to work on this style of illustrations because I still have several of them in this book, like this one. It was a difficult choice between this and this. I think that I really love her dress, so I decided that it will be my start. My another regret about December works was that I didn't have enough time to work in Escape to Christmas Past book, which I really love, but it's a book for a very limited amount of time, just for December, maybe for January, so I wanted to do something here. And also, some days in January, I was much more invested in spending time with family, and I had a very limited amount of time for coloring. I wanted to color something, but it was a little bit difficult to concentrate when other things are around you. So I selected very simple pictures, even silly or funny, slightly weird. Before I didn't think at all that such pictures would interest me. But in the end, even such very simple pictures can be quite pleasurable to color. Again, I experimented with various media. Here I grabbed my Arteza gouache. In my set of Arteza, I think that I still hadn't used half of the colors. And finally, it was time to experiment. It's almost like I grabbed the first tube from the box of gouache and started from this random color. I thought about the rest of the colors for this page. Here I also played with my new set of metal and glossy gel pens. You know that it's my first experience with gel pens, and indeed they are quite helpful when you need to do tiny things. Then I used a little bit of watercolor for this central part. With pencils I added this wooden texture. I enjoyed doing this crown. So it was a crazy mix of different media, but in the end I got quite pleasurable result. It's simple but still I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that when I did this one I decided to continue on the left side. It's even more simplified and not very inspiring picture, but because of this experiment with this gradient on the various gouache shades starting from pale yellow to more ochre and red oxide colors which I used here. Then on top I used also metal and pearl watercolors, so everything is shiny. So beautiful colors of the paints helped me to mask that picture itself isn't very inspiring. Also, I tested here my new Ohuhu markers, and I found that they also are quite helpful when you need to color tiny things. And that's not all. I also did this intricate door knob to the house of Scrooge, this knocker. Here I decided to practice more on various textures, so with watercolors I did this first layer of wood, and then I decided that I wanted to do both like steel and golden metals. Maybe it's a little bit weird to use them together, but I wanted to practice and I did it. So, another quick, simple, but I do love it. When I realized how much joy I can get from these simple works, I switched from Escape to Christmas Past to Escape to Wonderland. Here I have a book printed on different paper which doesn't allow me to work with watercolors, so instead I do usually backgrounds with neocolors and with gouache. First I decided to finish this spread where I already had this page with Alice. I did it maybe several months ago, maybe last summer. Anyway, I wanted to do this page with globe, and finally I decided that background I will do with neocolors, which created matte surface. Then I also blended it with pearl watercolors, pearl pink, pearl blue, so I have this very shiny galaxy. And then with color pencils I finished to do globe and wooden table. Quick and easy. After that I remembered that my first love for this book was toward this spread. I saw it for the first time among the works of Peter Hewitt and I fell in love with it. Then I started to discover what are the artists behind this book, and that's how I discovered for myself this series of Escape too. But somehow I purchased everything apart from this book. So when I finally got Escape to Wonderland, also my last from this series, I wanted to do this spread. For the background again I used gouache and neocolor crayons. I wanted quite intense blue because I needed it for the contrast for this a white area where I wanted to show dynamics of the rabbits moving. I think that it was quite interesting idea which I did here on the sky. The rest of the page I did with very simple colors. I think that I simply opened my bag with color pencils. I grabbed random light green, dark green, even if they had very crazy green shades. I used them on the ground, on the grass, on the leaves. I think that in Alice in Wonderland you can use the craziest colors. The most challenging thing was to decide how to color this rabbit hole. First I thought about more traditional way, about beige, grey, brown, but then I realized that actually here I can use my set of Castle Art pastel tint pencils, which have this light grey, light green, light yellow, this more like powder pink colors, a lot of pleasant light shades, and together with grey they created quite nice and interesting rabbit hole. Even for me it was unusual, but I grabbed one pencil after another from Castle Art box. I tested them on paper and they worked so nice together, and everything worked well for the rabbit hole. So I was very pleased when I finished this one. In the beginning of the year, I made myself several promises, and one of them was to start each month at least one or better couple of the untouched books. So in January, I finally started to color in my first mythographic book. It's also my first book by Fabiana Attanasio. I totally fall in love with her style in these books. Let's not talk about hidden objects because I managed to cover them successfully, and apart from the hidden objects, pictures here are absolutely gorgeous. I'm sure that it won't be my last pictures in this book. I plan to color in it in February or maybe during the whole year. Because when I go through the book, when I flip it through and I can imagine immediately color palette for each of the pictures, it means that I won't have problems when I actually start to color it. It's like half of the work I already did in my head, that I can imagine colors for each of the pictures. And usually it means that my coloring will be quite easy and relaxing. So of course I want to color in it more. So in January I did a couple of works. When I got the book, I immediately knew that for this page I wanted to experiment with this very light, warm beige with pink background. I achieved it by mixing watercolors and gouache. Gouache as a opaque medium helped me to mask bigger amount of the hidden objects here on the background, and the rest I masked with creamy and opaque pencils like Derwent Drawing with Prismacolors, so it was quite easy actually to mask those hidden objects. Well, the challenging part was to select colors for those tiny buildings, but I think that now they look quite nice with all those snow roofs. And I do love how I added this blue flowers, which with all those pastel colors, at least something intense and blue, added very nice touch here. And the second page, which I started to do immediately after I finished the reindeer, was with this amethyst castle and with this dragon. Here I masked all the objects with simple black acrylic paint, and after that I used Sucolor pencils mostly, and of course a lot of white to show highlights on the amethyst crystals, on the snow, on all those icicles. I do love this color combo of marine green, blue-green color together with violet, lilac and yellow colors. Here I also started to use my new set of green acrylic markers, quite helpful, so first experience was quite positive. And I do love this final result. After winter season, let's move to Africa, because I remembered about my Goddesses book by Martin Noble, and in the very end of the month I decided to do a goddess from West Africa. Her name is Mavu. I've never heard about her before, so it was quite interesting to read about her, to learn something new. She was a creator of Earth, and interesting thing was that when she created Earth, it was so heavy that she has to ask the boar, the giant snake, to help her to push Earth to start flowing in the sky. Sorry guys, maybe it sounds crazy, but sometimes it's so difficult to explain. Anyway, you know how much I love this book. Usually I tend to color here with my budget pencils, and first I started here with Star Joys. They have nice shades of blue, so I did the sky together with one black and 3 shades of blue. I deliberately tried to do a lighter area behind her hair to make good contrast to her very dark, almost black hair. And I added more stars. I think that it looks better in such a way. I also added second cloud on the right to make better balance. But then I realized that when I color with Star Joy pencils on this paper, my hand started to tire more quickly comparing to Arteza pencils. So for her clothes, I switched to Arteza and I worked quicker. Only her skin I did with polychromos pencils because I didn't want to mess up. So I simply used a couple of brown colors from polychromos pencils. Probably January was a month of tiny books and tiny pictures. Apart from Escape to series, I also worked in this tiny book by Grazia Salvo. I did one page, but I love it. It was a page which I did to test my castle art pencils after I got them. I started with Neocolor and metal watercolor backgrounds. It looks a little bit messy on the screen, but in real life, because of this contrast of matte surface and metal watercolors, it looks quite nice, and in the same time it doesn't distract attention from the yummy cake. Castle art pencils have quite nice helpful shades if you love to color food, if you need to color those delicate colors on the white china, like I did here on the cup and on the plate. So I was quite happy how everything turned out, and it was quite a quick work. When I needed brighter colors, I used another set of castle art, my set of botanical pencils of 24. I don't think that after this experience I want full set of castle art regular pencils, but pastel tints I do love. In January, I fully and totally fall in love with the pictures by Kubikovska. Karolina Kubikovska for a long time was a mystery artist to me. I adored her works. For me they were extremely beautiful, but they were beautiful in black and white. I didn't think that I would be able to add color in such a way that it won't mess up with the original idea. But then, gradually, when I started to color in this set of postcards, I realized how much I actually enjoy coloring her works. Of course, part of the pleasure is quality of the paper, where I finally was able to get the best qualities of my granulating watercolors, of my metal and pearl watercolors, of my graphite and Inktense pencils. They all behave here very well, and they create beautiful effects on the background, like I did here with regular dark green, black green watercolor together with pearl and metal colors, which created this interesting effect on the background. And then Inktense pencils on the leaves, quick and easy, and it's really very refreshing to work here. So it was magical green. I also did magical violet with this slightly crazy amethyst with eye. But I think that the craziness of her pictures, that they are a little bit weird, it's also quite refreshing. If we have crazy pictures, then we can select crazy colors. Here the main hero of the background was Daniel Smith's beautiful watercolor Moonglow, which by itself on the good paper can create this gradient from pink, magenta to the purple and grey, very interesting. And I also added a little bit of a light violet and opera rose colors. Then I worked on the leaves with Inktense, on the crystals again with various shades of polychromos pencils. You can watch all these videos on my YouTube channel, so if you enjoy watching how people color with watercolors, maybe you will like these videos. And finally I have also Sleeping Fox, again combo of regular and metal watercolors, so background is shiny and interesting. I do love this effect which watercolor create on this paper. And for the fox, I practiced how to do fur with Derwent drawings. And after these experiments, we are going to the traditional selection of the artist which I color each month. And of course we will start with Goodrich books. Somehow in January I can't say that I was very eager to color her books. Maybe I still was quite invested into her Christmas books, but at the same time it was a little bit silly to color all Santa or elves or Christmas trees. So first I decided to do something in the main street, and I selected House of Cheese. It's a simple work. I didn't add something here, I didn't change anything here. I simply selected a lot of shades of yellow because it's a color connected to the cheese, and then colors which would complement this yellow, like this marine green and various shades of warm brown colors. So it wasn't complicated, but I'm glad that I added another shop to my main street. And after that, I finally decided that if I want to do anything in Christmas charm, why wouldn't I select page without all those attributes of Christmas, which looks more like simple winter page. And I did this page with a lantern and cardinal bird. Here, of course, my favorite part, which I'm really proud of, is this candle and lantern. I worked quite carefully on all the reflections, highlights on the snow around the candle, reflections on the glass from the nearest objects and everything which we have inside. Well, we have here a mix of more realistically looks elements and much more simplified, which isn't my favorite part of the page, but the color palette and how I managed to attract attention to the two most important details like this lantern and cardinal, it was really good. When I sprinkled everything with white paint to create impression of the falling snow, I started to like it even more. I can say that I am totally proud of my cardinal. I wanted to test this variety, not completely red, but with mix of beige, brown and red feathers. I definitely need to practice more, but at least for the color palette of this page, it matched quite nicely. So here I, as usual, used mostly Prismacolor pencils. Only on the background I used a couple of polychromos for this intense blue-green color which I needed. In January I did a page in Braille and I am crazy happy because I abandoned Braille book for such a long time, and it's definitely one of the most treasured books in my book collection. All pictures are gorgeous and I am not afraid to color here. It's just simply I didn't have enough time probably. So in January I did one tiny picture, nothing special, just to test paper a little bit. I did this golden griffon together with maybe ruby with polychromos pencils. Again, it confirmed that polychromos and many other brands work really well here on this paper, so nothing to be afraid. Watercolor also worked well here. I think that the main reason why I abandoned it was my not very successful attempt to do the sky with gouache paints. I wasn't experienced at that moment with gouache, so I almost ruined it, and I put it away for several years. And finally, I have another finished page here. I did this mermaid. I do hope that you are able to see all the details, but it's a little bit complicated to film it and under electric light and with all those very light pastel colors on the sky together with dark colors on the stone. Sometimes light colors they are lost on the screen. So of course I will post better picture of this one on my Instagram as I usually do, so I hope that you will be able to see all the details. Well, not everything here was easy to color. I didn't know how to color this dynamic of the uh, flowing water of the waterfalls, but I experimented. I combined Prismacolor's polychromoses, so in the end I am happy that I did something in this book, and I am also happy with the result. Not perfect, but also not bad. And I enjoyed even the most challenging parts of it. I returned to it, I changed something, I added shadows, dark colors, then some color accents. So it wasn't easy, but I think that it's a decent work. Next, let's have a look at the Menu de Bonheur by Kanoka Yakuza. I did one page in the beginning of the month and one in the very end. First, I decided to do something very nice and sweet. So I did this nursery. I already have green room in this book. purple book, so it was time to experiment with some new colors for the interior designs, and I thought that for the children room this very soft beige and clay rose colors, they are quite appropriate. The strange part was all those flying butterflies. I still don't know what they are representing. Maybe they are part of this canopy, maybe they are reading book about butterflies, so they imagine that they are flying. But apart from this slightly confusing part, everything else was good. You know that I love to color all those details of the furniture, of the interior, all those vases, baskets, so it was quite a pleasure. And the second one I did when I felt that maybe I need some bright colors among the winter season, and I selected this tropical wreath. Usually I start to color from the background, but here I immediately started to work on the flowers. I tried to divide them into several color groups, so you can see a couple of bright accents and the rest made in relatively light pastel colors. I wanted my colibri to be quite bright, and I have two types of them, 2 and 3. On the last step I added this quite simple background in various shades of darker and lighter green, and I think that it complemented flowers pretty well. It was long because it has many details, but relatively easy. I still enjoy working with Prismacolors on this paper. I was thinking about doing watercolor backgrounds, but then I decided that more confident way to be sure will be to do the background with pencils. So here we have Prismacolors and a lot of Posca pens, of course. And finally, we will have a look at Kirby Rozana's books. I'm so happy that I finally started to color in his books. I equally love both Fragile World and Waltz Within Waltz. I only wish that I have both books by the same publisher. Here I have Plume, here I have Long Art, and Plume is much better for me because it allows me to work with watercolors. I'm crazy happy that I have watercolor paper in the book about animals. Well, because I can do the whole page with pencils here where we have more intricate designs, but here all those water, stones, sky backgrounds with pencils, well, it would be much more challenging. So in January I selected page with penguins. And I did watercolor underpaint first, very lightly on the stones and on the sky, but then I worked with pencils for the color accents, for the shadows beneath the stones. I selected it probably because I wanted to work on these black areas of the black feathers on the penguin's body, and I hope that I managed to do it quite nice with some of the highlights, some of the slightly dirty parts of the white feathers, some reflections that it's not completely black but with some addition of purple and blue. So I think that it's a good work. It's simple because background around is very simplified. But in the end, I think that it turned out exactly what I wanted it. Because of the bright beak and bright feathers around eyes, we immediately look at the penguin, and that's exactly what I wanted here. I hope that I will continue to work here because I absolutely love this book. And the last page, it's definitely my best one for January. And I did Magical Compass in Vault Within Vaults. Here I have my compass. As I said, I can't work here with watercolors, even with neocolors it's a little bit problematic, but I can do here background with black acrylic like I did here around the compass, and the rest I did with 1 or 2 Prismacolors and mostly polychromos pencils. Some of the areas here were quite easy to color, like all those golden parts. Some were challenging when I did this light halo of the sunshine, rays of sunlight around the sun, when I needed to do this gradient from the yellow and orange to the very intense dark blue, black and violet. So some of the areas were a little bit more complicated, but in the end I'm absolutely happy how it turned out. I'm proud of it, proud of my efforts. And I think that in the end of this year, when I will feel my best top 10 finished pictures, it definitely will be in this list. Well guys, it was all about my January, a lot of happy moments, some not very happy, some of my parcels, my orders were lost, my very well expected parcel with Posca pens very needed were lost. Well, I hope that February also will be quite good. I have some plans which pictures I want to do. I will continue to maintain my promise to start new books. Of course, I will try to color in my favorites also. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you very soon.